when it comes to this conflict or discrepancy between the objective awareness of safety, whether you have that when you look around, when you notice your current present moment environment or not. There may be a disconnect between that and your internal experience of safety. And that is complex. And it's so easy to say, just be present. But I love what Suzanne said, which part of me is present. Some parts of us may not be ready for that, may not feel safe showing up in the present. So we can give empathy to those parts of us. That discrepancy or disconnect is connected to trauma, for sure. Our minds, their job is to keep us safe. That's their job. So we can notice what they're telling us, and then we can check in also with our bodies. Our bodies may have different information. That includes our senses. The difference between our responses, if it's a trauma response, and our responses if it's a sensory response. So sometimes I think I'm triggered, but honestly, being a highly sensitive person and having sensory processing intensity, I am having a sensory response, and it can feel like a trigger or a trauma response. I just want to put that out there in case that resonates with anyone else, that when we're highly attuned, we might notice our heart is beating. It doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong, but just, oh, I can feel my heart beating. We might be looking around for the trigger, and really there isn't a trigger. It's just that we're that sensitive to our own inner experience and our own sensory experience. Does that make sense? I hope that might be useful for someone. Someone mentioned fireworks. It is a privilege to be able to watch fireworks without having a trauma response. I would put myself in that category. However, to appreciate fireworks, I need an accommodation. I always plug my ears. Otherwise, I don't enjoy the fireworks. I would rather just be able to see them and not hear them. A lot of times, sensory stuff can come from past trauma. That's true. Not all the time. It's complicated. Self-regulation is valid and valuable even when the world is a shit show, especially when the world is a shit show. When we feel more powerless in a situation, tapping into our inner capacity is useful, whether we're making changes to our own environment or to something in the world. Feeling disempowered is not going to help us. We may have parts that are not empowered, and we can protect those parts. The vulnerable need protecting. That goes for ourselves, and that goes for all beings. The vulnerable need protecting, not the powerful. So if there are powerful parts of ourselves and vulnerable parts of ourselves, we can show up in kind. And those powerful parts might be able to take action. I hope that framing helps, and we will do some practice to self-regulate, to tap into our inner capacity and confidence. I want to define confidence the way I see it, which is trusting how we're feeling and being all right with it. Not about any actions, knowing how we're feeling, trusting that feeling and being okay with whatever it is we're feeling, knowing we do have the capacity. That's my definition of confidence, and I'd love to hear yours. This idea that two things can be true, that there can be this belief or this thought, and if that isn't helpful, we can notice the truth that there's also this alternative thought that might also be there at the same time and be helpful. If there's pain in one part of our body, can we acknowledge that pain and be with it, while also acknowledging that there's positive sensations or just lack of pain in another part of our body? So there's this yes and kind of feeling. We're not setting our convictions aside. We're having them here with us as part of our strength. Our vulnerability, our big feelings, our hurt, all of that can also be here, and we can care for it as also part of our strength, especially when there are things in our immediate environment that are triggering. Confidence might mean that it's appropriate to be activated. That nervous system response of flight, fight, might be more appropriate to do something, to take action than the safe and social state. However, if we know we're safe enough, we can go to sleep and we can give ourselves some time away from that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. We need that to build our inner capacity to fulfill our mission in the world. That's a good place to end. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation with you in community.